Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Seek Joy, the podcast. My name is Cheyenne. I am your host. I have my co-host. He's not actually my co-host, but we're calling him my co-host here. Jacob Yates with me because he is a ride or die for this thing and what the Lord is doing. If you've never been here, welcome. If it's your first time, we love that you're here. If you're coming back, thanks for coming back. So as you know, it's a safe space for sinners, saints, anybody in between to share their testimony, how they came to know God, and all just to glorify him and share how God can really redeem whatever he wants, whenever he wants. So I have a guest on here with me. His name is Dylan Kmetz. I practiced that for a very long time, and I was going to call it Calumet, but I knew that, I literally knew I was about to do it. So I was going to let you just take it. So if you want to start with your testimony and how you actually know Jacob, I think that'd be really helpful to give a little bit of context.
Yeah, so me and Jacob go back now about, 8 years.
10 years.
Yeah, it's maybe 10 years.
2013, 2014.
Yep. So we met, I had an ex-girlfriend, and she worked with his ex-girlfriend, and she had passed away. Her name was Nettie, and that was big. That was big, and, we stayed in contact ever since then. We were both kind of in the streets at that point, and, we stayed in contact a little bit through the streets, but never through a setting like this or with community or with God. So
we went on a double date. That's what we did. We went on a double date with Nettie and Allie and to the movies.
Yep.
And Nettie's son.
It was that boxing movie.
Was it Creed?
It was Creed.
It
was the first
one.
Yep.
What a movie.
I love that.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. I just thought that'd be good to give a little bit of context. So if you want to start wherever you feel so called, whether it's, back when you were a kid, wherever your testimony you think makes sense.
We'll start all the way back to when I was almost a newborn. So 18 months old, my dad got killed. He was involved in the streets, drug game, whatnot, just everything. He moved here from California, just stuck with the streets. He was involved there and tried to move here, get away from it, couldn't get away from it. Fast forward to when I was about 9-10 years old, moved to the west side of Columbus. I'm sure you guys know about the west side. Hilltop, yep. Warren and Broad. Went to John Burroughs Elementary. Moved there because my parents, they got hooked on crack, among other things. We were up there staying with my cousin, and
That's okay. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
As soon as we moved up there, the first thing in my memory was, someone got killed right out front of our house, and I witnessed it, which was, I still remember that to my day. I still remember that.
How old were you then?
About 10.
About 10. Wow.
Yep. So, fast forward a little more to when I was 12. My parents are highly strung out on crack. Just we're moving all over the place, living in foreclosed homes. West side, Worthington, over to Dublin a little bit, back to the west side.
In Hilliard. Don't leave me out. We lived in the same neighborhood too when we were kids.
Did. We put two and two together, down the line a little bit. Went to Beacon Elementary for a little bit.
Yep.
So, my stepdad, he was just not a good guy at all. He had me, breaking into houses, boosting from stores, being his lookout, whatnot.
At like 12 years old.
12 years old, yep.
Yeah.
So, a few months go by of me being 12, task forces following him around. We get busted while in a house. We're coming out of the house. He was in there breaking into a safe. Get arrested. That's my first charge. That got dropped because I was so young. But he went to prison for a couple years after that. Me and my mom and sisters and brother just kind of were on our own for a little bit. So, and then when I was 14, that's when the real mess really started happening.
That wasn't the real mess?
No, that was, I was just a young kid, just really just trying to play football and be like normal kids, and
Had all this trauma, and when
had
you
all
went
this
home.
trauma, yeah.
God
And
bless
not to
you.
mention, all the kids at school found out about this because the burglary was in the neighborhood I lived in and went to school in. So that was embarrassing. But I didn't care. So I'm 14 years old, just hanging out with the same people that I was used to seeing and being around.
I said turn it off. Jacob like is gonna drive me crazy.
Just being around the same people that I'm used to, people just like my mom and my stepdad. That's all I knew. And I'm watching all these gangster movies. I'm like, that's what I want to be. I want to sell drugs. I want to do all these drugs. I want to experience all this. So I started getting into black tar heroin, smoking it, cocaine, a plethora of drugs, hallucinogens, all kinds of stuff. 14 years old.
Wow.
Hanging out with the wrong people. And then later on, 14 years old, I get another burglary charge. I get involved in that time I got involved in juvenile system probation. Went to this place called Cornell Abraxas where Jacob he was there too.
Really? At the same time or different times?
Different times. This is again stuff that we like put two and two together later on.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So when you're a bad kid in Columbus, that's where they start you out at. They send you to Cornell Abraxas up in Mansfield.
Is it like
It's in Shelby, Ohio. It's the one I was like, it's out in the middle of nowhere.
In the middle of nowhere, yeah. Okay.
It's like a pre-juvenile detention type deal. They send you there before they send you to juvenile prison.
Okay.
Just to see if they can get
They're like, can we help this kid?
Yeah.
Got it.
So I was there for a few months, got out, got back into the same thing, selling weed. That turned to selling pills. I think I was, that's my 8th grade year, going into freshman.
Were you selling to this is going to sound stupid, like grown people?
Yeah, older people. I was running with people that were, seniors in high school, 20, 21 years old. And older people too, because my whole family, not just my mom and stepdad were into drugs, my mom's whole side of the family. So I met various people through them, and neighbors, just people. So getting into being strung out at that point in my life, doing pills, smoking black tar heroin, getting into snorting coke, all kinds of stuff. Drop out of high school sophomore year. Well, I wasn't even barely going to school since 8th grade. So my whole high school career was spent using drugs, and probably by the time I was supposed to be in junior year, I'm off Cleveland Avenue in the Linden area and on the west side, hanging out with call girls and at trap houses, meeting up with Mexican plugs, selling heroin at that point, and just strung out. At that point, I was introduced to the needle and started shooting heroin, coke, going to, my family, my grandma, she was like a good caretaker for me, and she tried to intervene when she could, but I always wanted to be in the streets. So she would get me into rehabs here and there, like detoxes and stuff. I'd go to Children's Hospital and try to detox because I was a kid. So by the time I'm 18, I have just tons of charges racking up that the cops are looking into, just credit card thefts and all kinds of different things. So I get arrested. I think I'm almost 19 at that point. I get arrested, and I have 17 felonies, including a robbery charge.
Wow.
Yeah, they came and kicked my grandma's door down in Grove City. Get arrested. And that was the beginning of, me, hitting my first rock bottom.
Yeah.
I have 17 felonies. The prosecutor's telling me we offer you 11 years. And I'm just scared, senseless. I'm in the workhouse detoxing from heroin, Xanax, and cocaine, just puking. Terrible. I didn't sleep for 17 days straight.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah, 17 days straight, not an hour of sleep. You're just in there hallucinating,
shaking,
blood,
sweating.
blood pressure's crazy. I'm 115 pounds.
Ooh.
Yeah, so
That's nothing.
Yeah, I do about 11 months in there.
And that's like the court ordered thing they put you in?
No. So
11
I'm in there.
months in the workhouse is, I mean, they keep the lights on 24 hours in there, so, and they don't let you get a breath of fresh air. It's like the Franklin County Jail. I don't even think they just opened a new one, but it's hell. Honestly, it's like the worst place in the world.
It's unconstitutional. I think the Discovery Channel tried to go in there and they wouldn't even let them.
Right, they wouldn't even let that. They don't let the health department through the front doors. They don't let anybody in there. Like it's inhumane. Honestly,
yeah, I was
it's
gonna say,
like
it's giving demonic.
I think I slept on the floor for like the first 2 months.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a terrible place.
So I'm in there detoxing, I'm in there fighting, getting beat up, all types of stuff, because I'm a dope fiend in there, and that dope fiends, they get picked out.
Yeah.
And I'm detoxing, people don't like that stuff. That's just, especially, it was just,
it's a mess.
My first couple months, it was terrible, getting sent around different pods. And I finally get to a good pod and I'm starting out the detox. And these older guys were like, man, you're about to go to prison for a long time. Like, or you very well could go to prison for a long time. So you need to get your shit together. I started working out. There was one, I forget his name now, but there was a guy in there. He's the one that was like, man, you should start reading the Bible because you don't got no family, and then you're not talking to anybody. You don't got no money on your books. You should start reading the Bible because, God's going to be the only person you have. And I took that serious, and that's when I was saved, was in the workhouse.
Wow.
Yeah, that's when I was saved for the...
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was, my first bottom in there. And I didn't end up getting the 11 years. They dropped that down. I copped out to seven felonies, not 17, because they do over indict you. So I get 32 months, and I served 11 of that in the workhouse. So whatever the remainder of that is, I did in the state penitentiary down in Lancaster, Ohio. It's called SCI.
Yeah.
So I go there, and I'm healthy, I'm good, and my whole bid changes in there. Like it's a little better in prison if you talk to people. Like jail is terrible. It's just unhumane. You go to prison, it's a little better. It all still sucks.
Yeah, I got you.
I go in there, I come closer to God. I get into a faith-based dorm in there. I go to college. So, everything's good in there. I pray a lot in there. Mainly I was praying for, a better life. That was my perspective then, is I was just like, God, please, like, pull me from this life, because I was scared of what was going to happen when I got out, because I had nobody. So with that, I met a pastor in there, Pastor Brian McKinley. He was one of the lead pastors at a place called the Refuge. And it's a pretty big organization in Columbus that takes in men that are struggling with addiction or homelessness. And they also have a woman's side too now. Yeah. So it was the day I got out, I went to dinner with my grandma and then went to the Refuge. Went to the Refuge, did the first phase, second phase there, and then Pastor Brian brought me back to the first phase as a coordinator. So I was in there, I was over, 15 to 20 different men trying to lead as good as I could, under Pastor Brian. So I did a lot in there, a lot of God's work. I learned like how to be a man, how to, what real life is gonna be like, and I learned some structure there that I had never been introduced to during my childhood. Yeah. So I'm in the Refuge. I think it's 8 months. I'm probably about 22 then.
Okay, yeah, so I was gonna guess like 22.
Yeah, 22. And then I think I was 23 at this point. I'm in there getting on Facebook, talking to girls, whatever. Haven't had a relationship. I had never really had a relationship up to that point. My relationship was with drugs. Yeah. So I meet this girl I went to high school with. We click. I end up leaving the Refuge early. like I didn't. It's a 13-month program. I didn't stay for the whole time. You know, I did, you know, prison time and stuff. I was ready just to get out and start my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pretty confident at that point. So I get out with this girl, you know, she's now my ex. You know, we were together for 6 years. But shortly after, you know, getting out of the refuge, a couple years, I started smoking weed, you know, and that just, smoking weed, I'm drinking, I'm like, man, I've never really lived a clean and a clean lifestyle before where I can like smoke weed and just drink and not do hard drugs. So I'm liking that. And, but for people like me and Jacob, you know, and just people with the addict mentality kind of, or just that love the lifestyle, we can't just do stuff like that and try to like be with God and only do that, because at least for me it led to other things. I start doing Xanax, and you know, then I find out the Xanax has fentanyl in it these days, and because they're like pressed or something. So that whole relationship, that 6-year relationship, I was smoking weed and on Xanax, and that became the death of that 6-year relationship. So, as I said earlier, me and Jacob had met previously, you know, when I was probably 23, when I was in this relationship earlier on, because that girlfriend was good friends with Nettie, which was his ex-girlfriend. So, you know, some years later, Jacob and I come back together, because during that time we just saw each other here and there. But we come back together due to some relationships, you know, coming to an end. He was with a girl, and that relationship, a different girl, came to an end. And then my relationship with my girlfriend of 6 years was coming to an end. And so we got together, we bonded over that, and we're like, man, we're sick, we're just down in the dumps, you know, we're like using each other to get out of that.
Yeah.
Going to the gym.
Yep, going to the gym. We're like, we're gonna try to get healthy.
Moved in together.
Yeah, and they actually move in together. It was crazy. They move in together, and me and Jacob are still like kind of hung up on them. I remember going over there one time, and then Jacob's there, and I'm like, what the hell? What are you doing? I was like, I didn't want to tell you I was coming over here, but you're here too? Like, we're supposed to be staying away from these girls. Like, it was crazy. But so at that point, God was still not in my point of view. I don't know if I was ashamed, or I thought I was too far gone or something. Yeah. But he just wasn't there. I wasn't.
You had other idols in your life. Yeah, you're focusing on other things.
You know, I'm still smoking hella weed, just using that to suppress things. So I don't know, maybe a year goes by. Yeah. Jacob, he comes to his end, you know, some stuff happened in his life, and he's just like, man, I'm done. I'm trying to be a good father out here. I need to, you know, that's when he starts his business. You know, he gets about his business. He starts going to church, and that's when, you know, his relationship started with God, right? So, you know, I veered away from Jacob for about a year, just because I knew he was on his path. Yeah. And I wasn't ready. You know, I wasn't ready at all. Yeah. So, you know, about a year goes by that we're not kicking it. You know, I was still in the streets, in the short north, blackout drunk, rolling trucks, getting DUIs, just out till 4 a.m., you know, going on benders, all type of stuff. So finally this past May, you know, I come to my end. I go to the doctor.
Like this May?
This past May.
Period.
Yep, this past May. I go to the doctor, and I get diagnosed for bipolar disorder, which I've had just because my mood's so up and down. I'll get manic and go out on these benders and drink and smoke, and then I'll be depressed as hell, and that's bipolar. And my mom's had it for years. Like, my mom but she has bipolar 1, where she's like hallucinates, and I remember seeing her in the corner of the room, like trying to pull her hair out and stuff when I was a kid. So I go get diagnosed bipolar. I finally get on the medicine. I was afraid to get on the medicine all these years, but it actually worked out. you know, and that was another thing I look back on now, like God was looking out for me,
Yeah.
you know. And so a little bit of time goes by, we get into June, the medicine starts working, I start feeling good. And then I reach out to Jacob because I know God has been working in Jacob's life. You know, I see what he posts. I see he had gotten baptized. He was bringing some other people in, one church. They got baptized. And I was like, you know, unconsciously, that was my cry to God.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, and then that was my in that I felt, you know, because I just couldn't do it by myself. I couldn't just go to some big church and be like, hey, guys.
Hey, I'm here by myself.
I'm
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So,
That's real. That's real.
So, yeah, that was my unconscious cry out to God. And since then, you know, God's worked miracles in my life that I've never experienced before. Even when I got out of the refuge, or when I was in the refuge and I met this girl, I thought that was the best thing that ever happened in my life. I was like, this is it. She's got a good family. I've never had people like this around. I've never had a girl this beautiful before, you know, yada, yada, yada. You know, I was strong. I was working out. You know, I had a good head on my shoulders. I was just ready to be out in the world. You know, I got jobs that I thought I would never get.
Yeah.
And just, you know, with 7 felonies and just no high school education. Well, I had gotten my GED in prison.
Nice.
But I just, you know, so, you know, I've just had different experiences this time. And even more than when I was in prison.
Yeah.
Because when I was in prison in the refuge, I still had reservations. You know, deep down, I still wanted to be out because I had never lived a clean lifestyle with people that party like on a clean way. Or what we think's clean, or, you know, going to music festivals and this stuff and, you know, getting all these cool pictures on Instagram and just being involved in what everybody's doing in the world. So I still had reservations then.
Yeah.
And this time, I don't know why, but, you know, God has presented just some kind of clarity to me that, you know, I don't have those reservations anymore, and I know my limits now. I know that I can't, like, I don't need to be out drinking and like smoking weed all the time. I don't need to be using anything to suppress my emotions. I don't need to be, when I have a hard day at work or I'm going through some stuff, you know, I don't need to be like, oh, I need to go smoke. I need to go drink.
Yeah.
And that's what I've learned now. Like, you have to deal with those emotions.
That's good, though, because, I
Yeah.
mean, you have to think and give yourself grace, too. Your entire life, you were never taught what it was like to feel.
Yeah.
You were just taught to suppress.
Yeah.
So how do you figure that out until you're literally a grown man, and then you're like, I'm at the bottom. I don't know how to feel nothing because I was never taught. What do I do?
Yep.
That's so real. That's so good.
Yeah, so and like I said, I don't know what, you know, something's just
The
happened.
Lord, that's what.
Yeah.
We know. The
God,
Lord.
God.
I mean,
The Lord
I'm
happened.
just like, why this time around? But it's like he had different plans for me then, and it was like, you know, he was like, take this step first.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you might stumble, and then later on I'm going to present to you different perspectives. So, you know, I finally have a clear view of what a healthy relationship looks like and feels like. You know, I've reached out to some of my family that I've never had relationships with on my dad's side.
Yeah.
You know, there's a girl in my life now that I love dearly, and I almost lost her through all this, and now we're back, like, tight. And I've just never had this perspective before of, you know, what a healthy relationship looks like.
With people and with God.
With God too, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, I have a deeper relationship now and understanding. So, and you know, with all that, I wanted to say, like, this is only the beginning, and I feel the presence of God more than ever. And my lesson is, you know, and I think everybody should know this too, is that it's never too late and you're never too far gone.
Period.
Like, we stumble, we fall a little bit, but grace, you know, we've got to realize and we've got to give ourselves grace, because it's never too late.
That's so good. And I think that that's the important part, is that's like, you're talking about steps. It's not like you get saved and then the next day you never, ever, ever sin again. First of all, that's just not the reality. We're not Jesus. We're not perfect. But as you grow in your relationship and you get sanctified, you're going to start to like change. And then you're going to look back at yourself 3 months down the road and see how much you've grown just because of that relationship with God. Because you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I'm already feeling it. It's crazy. I've taken risks I never thought I would
like
take.
Like what? Share one.
I quit my job, my 9 to 5, and now I started my own company.
I love that.
And I'm getting, people are giving me money that I never thought I would have before. Yeah. Opportunities, just skills are coming to me that I've never thought I could obtain before. Just people trust me, and it's amazing how God's working in my life right now, and just in such a short time.
That's what I was gonna say, bro.
Such a short time. I almost feel silly saying it. I'm like, it's happening.
And that's how you know it's nothing but God, because same thing when I got saved, the whole whatever, really God took me by the reins. I was like, I feel silly talking about how much I'm in love with the Lord, because it's just this deep connection. But I was like, but how much He's done for me in the shortest span of time. Yep. And it's and if you pray for those things, whether it's you pray for wisdom, you pray for prosperity, you pray for these things, and you mean it and you have faith in it. And you are a child of God, He will provide that for you.
He will. Tenfold.
Crazy.
100%.
I love that.
It's you're scared to tell people and profess that, but because you're oh, they're going to think they're going to be are you crazy? It doesn't happen that fast, but it can and it will if you just, I don't know. You just need to give yourself to God. You need to trust in Him, and you just need to give up all the bullshit.
Yeah.
And life will get so much better. People will come into your life that you never thought you would be involved with. And it's just crazy, the miracles that God has worked in my life and Jacob's and yours. And so
it's all on His timing too. And that's the thing that I think is the gift is He's had you since A1 day one, because He has now used what your story is to redeem that, to then be able to be a witness to, and then testify to somebody else about the reality of what God can do for you.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge reason that I'm on a big journey right now of the concept of suffering and it being an invitation from the Lord and not such a negative that the world can portray it to be. So it's really about the perception, the way we look at things, the way we decide to say, am I going to get bitter and angry or allow the hurt to control my life? Or am I going to allow God to take control and I just hand it over to Him and I'm just take it, bro. I don't want it. Because that's exactly what you're talking about was me last year when the Lord took over my life. I was I feel silly talking about this. I feel wacky. And now it's to the point where I'm I don't care. I love this man, the Lord, everywhere all the time, because it's I can't do anything but talk about it.
Yeah.
Because that's all I want to talk about, because that's just the reality of my life.
And other people need to know that too.
Yeah.
That's why no one should ever feel silly about it. God can work quick. He can work quick. It's just, you just need to accept and, I don't know. People just have to find that for themselves ultimately.
Exactly. That's what I always say. I'm I love that we do this podcast. I was and I want you to experience it for yourself. I was go read your word, go seek Him, go ask questions. If you don't believe things that we're saying on here, that's okay. I want you to question what you're hearing, because then you're going to go dig into the word and look it up. Look at you getting closer to the Lord just because you don't, and I love that.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Something you said about suffering. There is a verse in Romans about, suffering, and that Paul was talking about, and just persevering. And, and if we persevere through that, we're going to be, God is going to gift us, He's going to, things are going to get better. Through the perseverance, it's going to build character in us, and we're just going to be better people through that suffering.
Exactly.
That perspective is everything. We have to look at these moments of suffering they're going to help us one day. We just don't know it right now. But we're going to look back one day and be that's why that was happening. That's why I was going through that.
Yeah.
So.
And I think that that's the other piece of the pie of exactly what you're talking about that's not often talked about in the Bible is the concept of suffering being an invitation. And then also just the way that the Lord really wants to use things, and the reality of being used by him, you will be persecuted. It biblically says you will be persecuted as a follower. So if we expect life to be rainbows and butterflies and, oh, I give my life to the Lord, nothing bad ever is going to happen to me.
No.
That's not the reality, because is it really bad? Also, let's reframe, is it really bad? And I'm not saying like crap things don't happen to people. Evil is not from God, but he will redeem it and he will use it.
Yeah.
And he will find a way, because it's just, at the end of the day, it's just drawing you closer to him. And all we're put on this earth to do is literally worship God. We were created to worship. That's why we have other things in life that we worship, whether it's money, whether it's drugs, whether it's women. Like, we worship these things without even knowing that that's what we're doing. That's how corrupt the world can be, which is crazy to even think about. Like, and then when the Lord like opens your heart and opens your mind and you start to see it and have that discernment, your whole life has changed. You can't do anything but be like, it was the Lord. I don't know.
Yeah, it was God, you know. That's it. That's the only explanation.
That's so exciting.
You know. And, you know, getting control of your mental health is a big thing too.
Period.
And your emotions. It's real. Like, people say like, oh, I don't really need any of that, but it's a real stepping stone. It's not gonna save you like God does. Period. But it is a solid stepping stone to getting yourself more consistent and not so up and down, because that's where I was. That's where I've been all these years, just so up and down and hot and cold and manic and depressed, and you know, it's a reality. So, and
I think like even what you're talking about is a beautiful thing about it being a stepping stone, because when I was going through a lot of mental health stuff, I ended up getting put on Zoloft, and that was doing its thing, working for a while, whatever, but it was still like, you know, when you still feel like something's missing?
Yep.
Like, it was at a soul level, though, but I didn't even know it was at a soul level, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then, like, giving my life to Christ. And then I was like, oh, can I actually can I hand you my depression? Can I hand you this? For real, yeah. And then I'm not on Zoloft anymore.
Yeah. And you can come off of this stuff. Like, it's just, you know, it could just be for a season, too.
Yes.
It's not like, you know, the rest of your life thing. It's just, it can help you just become consistent, and you know, God will do the rest.
Yep.
You know?
And have the faith in it. Yeah. Having big faith in those things. So I think it's even like faith in the mundane, of even in the steps of it taking to get there. Like the faith that, oh, okay, I'm going to at least try to be on medication. Let's have the faith that the medication will work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that could even be a test of faith from God, to be like, okay, you're going to, let's try it out.
I was trying, you know, I was getting on Xanax and stuff, trying to just like, I was like, you know, this might help me be a little better and confident in life, and And it's just, you can't do any of this stuff. You can't self-medicate. You can't do any of that stuff without God. Yeah. So.
Yeah. That's so good. That's so exciting to see from May till now. Where you are.
It's boom. And it can happen for anybody too. Anybody.
Wow. Jacob, you got anything you want to add at all that you can think of?
No.
It was
I
really
think that
good.
was great. Yeah.
I know. I thought it was really good too. The Lord's really doing things, and I think that
God is good.
That's and it's like that testimony of what you're saying is so important. Like, because that's what I've noticed. Anybody that I have been in close relationship to, where God like scooped them up, it was boom. Yeah. It wasn't like a okay. I mean, sure, there's internal working for sure as you get sanctified, but there's just something about the way that you start to maneuver life just changes so fast, because you have this now clarity, like literally what you're talking about. You're like, oh, I see clearly now. Yeah. Everything's different.
You know, I think this is the first time that I've actually relied solely on God and not these worldly tools, you know, even though I feel like God provides these things like AA, NA, you know, medication, support groups, all that stuff. I've always relied, like, I always get myself into, I can just rely on this medicine. I can rely on, you know, working out or being healthy or eating good or going to AA, NA, or just like talking with people. But this is the first time I've solely been like, I can't do any of this without God. Like, it is like all these tools he gives us, like we can't put our faith in those.
Yep. And if God's not in the tool, it's only going to work for a little bit of time. It's a good thing. It's not a God thing.
Yeah. It's only going to work for a little bit, you know, and I've proved that in my life. I've done it all. AA, NA, you know, detox, rehab, everything you can think of. Yeah. And none of it worked until I you know, and I think that's the main thing that I've just realized, like, none of that stuff worked for me. So my faith is in God now, God alone. So
I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm
Yeah.
for real. Like, I'm very happy that you said that because I think we can see these good things coming of the world. Like, you can see it, and it's not bad at the front. We're trying to do good in the world, but if you are removing the Savior and Lord from what is happening, it's just going to keep going in a cycle.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or even if it doesn't keep going in a cycle and like, oh, I'm still getting an AA, but like I'm clean now. There's something here where you're missing something.
Yeah. And sometimes we do it, it's unconscious too.
Yes.
We unconsciously do it, and we just drift off. And, that's why it's important too to have people in your life that'll call your bullshit and, I'm nobody, but listening to my testimonies like I just gave kind of. So it's, it's important to listen to people, but, also question and, but, have your faith in God and God alone, and, use the tools that he's put here, but don't solely rely on those. So
I think it's important to remember too, like hearing testimonies like Dylan's, it would be wise to learn from that and to not wait until you're in a position where you don't see a way, like, and your back's against the wall, you've hit your rock bottom, you're like, how am I going to get out of this? How am I going to make it through this? Like, leaning on God before you're in that situation can prevent you from hitting those points, but God does make way where there seems to be no way sometimes, and he moves mountains, and he breaks chains, and he is a good God, and he's a miracle worker.
Yeah.
And he keeps his promises.
He does. And you might not get it right away either, timing
Period.
thing too. Like I just, things happen real quick for me this time, but I'm 32 I'm 32 years old, and it's taken me, from when I was 14 to now. So, and I started in rehab at 14 years old.
Yeah.
And even the first time I got saved, like, it's just God's timing. Like I wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
And if you just take these testimonies and you use them as motivation, and you look to the Word of God, and you look to God, he might not, or your problems might not all be solved right there.
Period.
But it'll soften the blow.
Yeah. And sanctification is like, to me, is like the process of breaking chains that bind us to our sin. And when people say sanctification takes time, I think that it's important to remember that process isn't always pretty. Like sometimes you take 3 steps forward and 1 step back, but you're still taking 2 steps forward, and you just have to give yourself the same grace that God is willing to give you, and just be willing to get back up. Reach out to someone else who is also walking with God and willing to pray with you and for you, and using that community of people that God provides you with, because he'll remove people from your life that don't support your relationship with him and don't support what's in his will for you, and he'll bring people into your life who do, and that's when the miracles really happen. Like, this walk isn't meant to be walked alone.
Preach.
So
It's really not.
We can't do it alone.
We're not supposed to.
No.
We're literally biblically, I mean, of course I believe the Lord having a wilderness season with you, a season with you where like the last year of my life, it's been a lot of him and I just like alone time. I need you to see just me right now.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, Lord, give me community, please. And then like Cross and Crown has been the largest blessing in my life.
Me too. I've never felt so involved, or I've never wanted to be so involved in an organization, a group of people that I just, this has been, Cross and Crown's great.
Yeah.
I've heard more recently than ever, people's perspective on Christians and Christianity is so damaged from church hurt and people who they thought were following Christ and were representing what it looked like to be a Christian. So they're like, yeah, I believe in God, but no, I'm not going to church because I know what people in the church do, and they have these have heard these stories and these traumas, and it's like there are good churches filled with good people who are really after God's heart, and it's discouraging to hear someone like unwilling to take that step and allow themselves to be vulnerable, and they're just stuck doing it on their own. They're reading the Bible and they're praying, but they don't have that support from a healthy community of people who are seasoned in their faith or who are new to their faith and on fire for God, and whose lives have had miracles, recently, where they can like testify for that. So it's but God's moving in our city and in our country, and He's good.
So
God is good.
That's what I think. You even touching on that, I think, is huge, because that is now becoming a thing often talked about, is church hurt, and this church hurt me and this church hurt me. First of all, we really need to sit with ourselves when we're talking about these things and look at, okay, am I now putting this church hurt on a pedestal that's allowing me to have a spirit of offense so that I cannot give grace to other people? Because the Lord calls us to be just as gracious as Jesus has been to us. Jesus literally forgave everything that you did. Everything.
Right.
Before it happened.
And I'm not saying we can't have feelings. The Lord gave us feelings. And are you going to idolize those feelings, or are you going to know who God is to be and show up the way that we're called to show up, even if you don't want to? Because I think that's where it's like the church is going to hurt you, period.
Yeah.
We're all broken people.
Yeah. When you rely just on the church too.
Period. Because that's what I keep saying. Like, you can't say, I don't want to do this Jesus thing because I've seen Christians behave a certain type of way. Don't you dare say we're on the same pedestal. Like, Jesus, no. We're trying. We're getting sanctified. The goal is to continue to move closer in holiness, as the scripture tells us to do. Yeah. But people are going to hurt you. At the end of the day, things are going to happen. What do you choose to do with that? That's what matters.
Yeah. Amen.
Ugh, wow, y'all. My soul is so filled. That was so good. I really appreciate you.
Of course. I've never been able to do this. This is the first time. I've given, my, half testimony type deal when I was involved with AA, NA, but I've never been able to do like this, because like I said, I've never relied on just God before. So, and it's amazing what He's been doing in my life, and the strength He's given me in just a short amount of time. So
that's what I mean. We love you. We're proud of you. Keep pushing forward. Keep hanging out with this kid over here, because it's good to have these people in your life, for real. And the Lord's proud of you. He's seeing everything. He's paying attention to everything. The angels literally sing anytime that you continue to get closer. So I think it's a beautiful thing. I really do. All right, fam, you ready for our final question?
Absolutely.
Okay. Where are you seeking and getting joy right now in your life? What does that look like for you?
I am seeking joy from God first.
Period.
From my new perspective of clean relationships, of healthy relationships, and my new perspective of a good church, with Cross and Crown. And then what was the other one?
Just whatever joy you got, fam. Anywhere, anything.
Everything, my relationships, my career, everything. Just my willingness, my strength, everything. Everything is, I find joy from it all. My dog.
Yeah, period. That's so good.
And I'm just motivated about the rest of my life now, and I've never been so determined, and I've never felt so good about my life, because I always had that black cloud of my childhood and how I was brought up, and I've never been able to let that down, and I feel like that's much easier on me now. So
that's beautiful. Yeah, that's really beautiful. Jacob, what about you? Because you're here. Where are you seeking joy?
I seek joy.
My co-host.
And I seek joy in my kids.
Period.
I seek joy in serving those around me. Prayer, my relationship with God, my friendships. I love my friends. I love the people in my life. I love the people that God has brought into my life. And I love bringing or being a part of leading people to him.
Yeah.
Like, that is where I get the most fulfillment, is like, if I can be a part of helping someone strengthen their relationship with God and then seeing what God can do in their life, I'm just like, let's go. Let's go. Like, I never force feed it to anybody.
Yeah.
You know, I tread really lightly, and I try to just be an example of what God has done in my life without telling somebody, like, if you would just crack the Bible and you would just go to church, this is what you need. Nobody likes to be told what they need to be doing. But, you know, like Dylan was saying, he was kind of like seeing what God was doing in my life, even though there was some space created between us. And then, like, on his own time and whatever the circumstances needed to be, like, he knew that, you know, when he first reached back out to me, I was like, man, we don't even got to talk about God. Like, but I just let him know that I loved him and that I was there for him. And if all it was for us to grab a bite to eat or to go to the gym and get some work in, like, I just wanted him to know that I was there for him and that whatever that looked like. And then, like, God did what God does, and I just am trying to play my role in it all, and just, like, I pray that God continues to fill me with his love so that I can pour that love into those around me.
That's
and
so good.
And I feel like he's doing a good job. For like I love the people around me. I really do. Love pouring into them, love pouring into my kids, and
That's so good.
Seeing you succeed and this podcast continue to grow and the guests that come on, like, it's all amazing. Man. God's moving.
I appreciate you. Yeah. And that's what I mean. What you're doing, you're being the hands and feet of Jesus. That's it. Like, you were literally just, like, showing up for people. Like, that's what he wants you to do. Yeah. Give the grace, give the truth, show up. That's it. And also, before we get off, because I have to now ask, because you got my wheels rolling, have you prayed about your spiritual gifts at all?
I get kind of uncomfortable when people tell me, like, that they see God using me and stuff. I mean, I give all the glory to God, but when someone's like, you're whatever,
like an evangelist,
yeah, I'm like, nah, you know, like, I'm not equipped for all that, or, you know, I just,
yes, you are. The Lord equipped you.
I just
you are. That's your flesh telling you no. Your spirit's trying to push out. That's
I know, but I try to make sure that I'm just doing what I feel called to do for God, and I try to leave myself out of it. This is all.
Don't leave yourself out of it. He wants to use you. You can leave your flesh out of it, but he wants you in it. You're a child. He wants you. Yeah. He wants you to do it. So that's what I think is the beauty. You're growing. You're leveling up. He's literally taking you to the next level, and it's uncomfortable.
What do you mean praying into
your spiritual gifts? So one, I encourage you to get into the Word to look at what the spiritual gifts are. So fun fact, there's an app called Bible Chat, which is like Chat GPT, but for the Bible.
Okay.
So if you use that, it's really helpful to kind of guide you to where those scriptures would be. So I would look on those, pray on those, meditate on those.
Give yourself more credit.
Give yourself some credit, for real. And
I just alley-oop the credit to God.
And you should. Your glory goes to him.
Yeah.
We were not created to be glorified. That's why it's uncomfortable for us, because we literally were not created to do that. We weren't created to take it. We were created to give it back to God. So that's good.
Yeah.
Continue to do that. Staying humble is good. Making sure you don't have pride is good. But also understanding you're the vessel at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, and embrace being the vessel. And when it comes to your spiritual gifts, talk to the people around you like you that are saying, hey, I see this in you, I see this in you.
Yeah.
That's a good place. They're also like, I don't encourage them 1,000%, but it is helpful for you to get an understanding of what spiritual gifts are. Is there's like different tests online you can try.
Okay.
And see too, to figure out wherever in scripture you also feel very connected or very pulled to.
Right.
Your gifting is usually around what that looks like. So I'm just excited. I just love when I see the Lord go, okay, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5.
Yeah.
That's so great. Well, thank you both for being here.
Of course.
I appreciate you.
Thanks
for real. This is
having
really
us.
good.
Appreciate you.
Yeah. All right, y'all. You know what to do. Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Subscribe, share, comment, whatever you feel so called. If you don't feel called, that's fine too. We still love you anyway, because you know what we have? Grace. Okay? Okay. We love you. We hope to see you back. Take care.